Bill. So what we're doing, we're playing a little bit of the blues. Let's talk about blues. Blues is super important in popular music, and especially to guitar players. So when we talk about the blues, we're talking about a couple of things. It's a style of music, it's a genre, but it's also a song form, and it's a critical song form. In other words, when I say it's a song form, all blues are basically the same chord progression, and we all know that. And that's like becomes a common language, because when you play together with people, it's really cool. You can say, well, we never met before, but I know we can agree on an A blues. We all know how that goes. And
perfect.
So it becomes this common language. So when we say it's a chord progression, here's what we're talking about. We tend to call it the 12-bar blues. There's 12 measures, okay? And those 12 measures cycle over and over. There's a million, maybe 1,000,003 variations, but basically they all come down to the same thing. The one chord is always played for the first 4 measures. Now the one chord is the name of the key, so if it's an A blues, the one chord is A, okay? The 4 chord comes in at measure 5. Let's count up. If A is 1, right, then A, B, C, D is 4. So that's how you can figure out the 4 chord. So a D chord is going to be the 4 chord. The other chord we need is a 5 chord. That comes in measure 9. Look at your book and you'll see a diagram of this progression and how it lays out. The 5 chord will count up from A again, A, B, C, D, E. That comes in there at measure 9, and then it returns to the 1. There's a lot of variations on this, but those chords always fall in those critical places, and you've heard it a million times. I'm pretty sure when we were playing earlier that anyone listening, without even realizing it, knew exactly what the next sound was going to be, because you've just heard it so often. So we're not only going to play a blues, but we're going to introduce the most common guitar riff or pattern that's played in this style. I'm going to grab a pick if I can find it. And this pattern, I tend to call it a boogie pattern. I'm sure it has other names, but that's what I tend to call it. Tell you what, Bill, you show us the pattern just briefly, and then I'll describe it. Perfect. A million times, right? Sometimes slow, sometimes fast, but it's always that basic pattern. And what that is, it's a fairly simple chord to start with. It's a 2-note chord. We call this chord an A5 or an A power chord. So the first chord you played, Bill, go ahead. That's the A5. And all it is open A, and then the 4th string 2nd fret, which is an E. So it's just those 2 notes. Play that again. Now, while Bill is holding that chord, he's not going to let go. To make this more interesting, because you don't want to just sit there and go forever, right? That would get boring. We tend to alternate. So the second, it's a variation on the A chord. We're not changing chords, it's just a variation. Place your 3rd finger at the 4th fret. We're going to call that A6. Play that. Go back to the A5 and the A6. Okay, and then if you put that into the pattern, and we're in straight, so it's like 3, 4. You're looking over here. You got this?
Yeah.
Why don't you try it? Perfect. So when we play the song, the cool thing about this is that's the A pattern. To make it the D pattern for the D chords, all you got to do, Carly, you're there, move to the next string set. Play the exact pattern only on strings 4 and 3. So that's what you're going to play on the D chords. And for the E chords, it's the same exact pattern, but it's towards the bottom, right? So you're going to play the bottom 2 strings. That's it. Again, all over the place, from Led Zeppelin to Clapton to everyone. One other thing, very common when you play electric guitar, is to palm mute. And when we play this song, we'll be doing some of that. To palm mute, what we do is we gently place the palm of our picking hand at the bridge. This is the bridge. And, right, and on the acoustic, Carly, that white saddle, right, that's about where. And what that's going to do, that is going to mute the strings. It's going to muffle them. But there's a couple of good reasons to muffle them. First, I'm going to play a little bit unmuffled or unmuted. There's nothing wrong with that. But now I'm going to use the palm mute. It's very common because when we're playing that kind of part, we're part of the rhythm section. In fact, we're almost like the drummer. And muting gives it that percussive sound. And yeah, you are like part of the drums when you're doing that. So you want to drive the band, and that kind of sound drives it a lot harder actually than just this open. The other thing, Bill, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. You have the pedal over there.
Oh, I do.
Kick in some distortion.
Here's a little.
Okay. Bill hit a really cool button for me which added some distortion. Okay. We all know if we listen to rock that electric guitar is very often, right, played loud and distorted. And when we do that, we often have to control the sound. And that's another reason the palm muting comes in. So with all that distortion, it's going to ring. So if I were to play it not muted, again, it might be okay, even appropriate for some stuff, but most of the time it's going to be more like. And that's really got that driving sound. Okay, so we're going to play the boogie pattern for you next.